Welcome to NextLabs Expert Q&A Series. This series was designed to inform you of relevant cybersecurity topics via expert knowledge.
Welcome back to the NextLabs Cybersecurity Expert Series. In this episode, we have our guest Alex Sharpe, Managing Director of Sharpe Management Consulting, joining us to discuss the CISO's role in ensuring the safety and security of AI. Now, Alex will introduce himself before we move into the Q&A.
Hello, it's Alex Sharpe, sharp like a knife, E on the end of Sharpe. So I started in this industry right out of college, working for the National Security Agency. After doing that for a number of years, I went into the private sector, built and ran a few businesses. Most of my work in the private sector, running those businesses was around strategy, operational improvement, and digital transformation. Cyber and AI remained a key part of that. And then over time, I've circled all the way back to where cyber and AI are the mainstay of my business. Most of the work I do these days is advising senior executives and also advising government decision makers. And I also teach resilience at the graduate level.
Thank you for your introduction, Alex. It's great to have you here with us today. To kick things off, what advice do you have for building guardrails without stifling innovation?
That's probably the number one senior executive question that we always end up with. We don't always start there, but we always end up there. So we are in the very early stages of this AI evolution. We know that the number one risk with AI is when they go wrong in ways that humans never would. That is your absolute number one risk. We also know that when it comes to innovation is really about diversity of thought. So the best thing you can do to create innovation and also prevent bad things from happening is being inclusive, right? Cross-functional teams, understanding that something's going to go wrong, but those are opportunities to learn and grow, right? So if we know things are going wrong, we're going to be mindful of them. We're going to be on the lookout for them. We're going to be prepared for them, but we're also fostering innovation. One thing I like to remind people is most good ideas are behind 2 or 3 bad ones, and that absolutely applies with AI. So very specifically, raising the awareness of the people playing in this space, working on this space, and the risks and how to mitigate them is very good, the stuff we talked about a minute ago. But also, it's absolutely critical to never take the human out of the loop, right? You want humans in the decision process. You want the critical thinking. You want them to be in a culture where they feel free to ask somebody else, hey, does this look right to you? And that all progresses. Be prepared for incidents, know they're going to happen, and choose use cases that allow you to not only constrain the blast radius, so the impact is limited, but also allow you to mitigate. So for example, we've all heard stories about how these automated chat functions were being used for customer service. People play with them, they do silly things. Worst case, you have to honor a bad price on a ticket, but you learn. Well, the fact is, it's funny, you get some free press, you learn from it, nobody gets hurt, right? In any of those stories, nobody's ever getting hurt, they're getting embarrassed, right? So I would not have it make critical medical decisions for you until there's a lot of testing and a lot of validation, a lot of experience. Let me give you a for instance. I was speaking with some folks in the medical community, and we've all heard the stuff about images where these machines can go through and read videographs, x-rays, and find things that humans miss. The results are fantastic. They're absolutely fantastic. Well, while I was talking to them, they're like, yeah, but we're not using those same tools or similar tools in areas around like certain blood tests and certain identification. I'm not a doctor, so I'm not going to try to explain it, because it turns out they don't have the same accuracy. So they know from experimenting in very small scale that they can't use the results from these tools in certain areas, but they work fantastic in imaging, right? So choose your use cases wisely. That's number one. Look for containing the blast radius, look for a way of mitigating, because if you're using a audio response on a customer service line, nobody's going to hurt. False diagnosis, people can die, right? You want to avoid that.
That is great advice. Building on that, what security-specific resources do you suggest for managing AI risk?
That in many ways is an evolving question, and it's kind of a loaded question. We are still figuring this out. There's no simple way about it. One of the biggest risks we run in the industry, the head of AI research for a think tank, one of our calls, made the key statement. And that is, the only thing growing faster than the adoption of AI is the number of long-term AI experts. There's a lot of good work going on there, but there's a lot of FUD in the market you shouldn't pay attention to. What I recommend to folks about resources is a couple of things. The work coming out of NIST is evolving very aggressively. Every time something comes out, by the time it's published, the next version is actually being produced. So I would be very mindful and stay abreast of the activities out of NIST. I would also keep an eye towards the European Union. The European Union and the US tend to have very different ways of managing regulations and frameworks and all that. The US doesn't want to stifle innovation. The EU wants to regulate. But one of the nice things about the EU is they are really good, or they've proven to be really good at mapping out and stack ranking and categorizing risks and remediation. So they're very good at that. Be mindful of NIST, look at what's going on with the EU. I would also keep abreast of the maturity models that are going on out there. MITRE has the Atlas framework, not the attack framework. They have the Atlas framework, which is currently being revised. By the way, I know some of the folks that are working on the update. They're all very good. They're very dedicated. They're very conscious. Pay attention to that. One caution is MITRE tends to be bottoms up. It's not tops down. So it's not the kind of thing your board would want to set out with its strategy and work through the details. This is more for the technical folks working the issues from the bottom up. And then lastly, you've probably all heard of the Software Engineering Institute, which developed the maturity model for software. Well, that's evolved, right? We're now working on a maturity model for AI, and I would keep abreast of that as well. So the top areas, keep abreast of NIST, what's going on in the EU, the MITRE framework, and then what we're seeing out of the CMI, working on the maturity model for AI.
Thank you for sharing those insightful suggestions. They are exactly what we needed. This concludes part 1 of this episode on the CISO's role in ensuring the safety and security of AI. Thank you very much for watching, and stay tuned to the next part of this episode.